Welcome back, Warp Fiends. This week on Warhammer Math, we're talking about the most blinked out, golden cheeked warriors of doom you ever thawed, the Sanguinary Guard. Up until this edition, I didn't actually include any Sanguinary Guard in my army, because for lore reasons, I just felt like they didn't belong there very much. I mostly just took Death Guard. Damn it. Company. But the Death Company are not nearly as potent as they used to be, making the Sanguinary Guard our mainline damage dealers. So today, we're going to take a look at their weapons loadouts, figure out which detachments they fit into, look at some character options, and at the end, I'm going to share with you my favorite way to use the Sanguinary Guard, because I don't think people are using them correctly. Before we go too much further, I just want to bring the noobs up to speed. My name's Blake, and I've written a custom program that takes an attacking unit and a defending unit, and then simulates the attack between them a million times, so that we can see the entire distribution of results. That's the data we're looking at today. So with that, let's go ahead and get started.
All right, the Sanguinary Guard.
So I love the Sanguinary Guard. They're basically flying Terminators that just happen to be toughness 4 instead of toughness 5. And they are hella mean. So toughness 4, 2-up save, 3 wounds. They have a 4-up invulnerable save, which I forgot that they still had. And they're jump back infantry, so they're moving 12. They're going all over the place.
So does that mean that your calculations didn't account for the 4+ invulnerable save?
No, they absolutely did. But the last game that I played with them, they absolutely kicked ass. But their weak spot was that I forgot that they had an invulnerable save. So they would have been even more kick-ass if I had remembered that.
Oh, I see.
They are literally flying Terminators. They're just 1 less toughness.
Yeah, I really hate them a lot.
So, like all jump back infantry, they've got deep strike. They got a couple of different pistol options they can choose. They've got the Angelus Bolter, which is basically a 12-inch bolt gun, no AP, which is really harsh. An Inferno pistol, which is basically a 6-inch melt-a-gun. It's got melt-a-2, strength 8, AP 4, damage D3.
The Angelus bolt gun is just a bolt gun that only shoots 12 inches?
Yeah.
And with no rapid fire?
Yeah. But
wow, that's fantastic.
It gets 2 shots, and it's got the pistol keyword, so it can be shot in close combat, which is, I guess, its value. But we'll talk more about what those pistols do in a little bit. The main deal with these guys, the creme de la creme, the creamiest cream is their blades, which cut through all of the cream. Essentially, you got 2 close combat options. You can give them swords, which are 4 attacks hitting on 3s, strength 6, AP 3, damage 2, or you can give them the spears, which gain the lance keyword, but you only get 3 attacks at AP 2, damage 2.
So are you forcing me to intervene and point out once again that you are not calling them what they are?
The Encarmine Spear and the Encarmine Blade.
What is Encarmine?
I don't even know what Encarmine means. I was literally just thinking that.
Carmine is a color, right?
Yeah, so these are that color. Is Carmine...
Oh, yeah. Well, Carmine is a bright red. So
is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yes. They are the not red blades and the not red spears.
And I guess Angelus is angel. It's an angel bolt gun.
Yes. Just loving the West Coast here.
Angels.
So, you can give the squad either all blades or all spears. We're going to look into that a little bit later.
What did you give yours?
Mine all run with swords.
Okay.
But
spears are really cool looking, though.
I do actually think the spears look cooler.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, so their abilities are, they have Angelic Visage, which makes them -1 to hit in close combat. And if they have a character model in the squad, then you also subtract 1 from the wound roll.
And they do that because they have hairs from this guy, Azkalion?
Yeah, they're heirs of Azkalion. I don't even know who this dude is. I'm sure he's important in the lore.
Of Azkalion.
Oh, I bet he's a Blood Angels hero or something from the
hairs off of his Azkalion.
Unfortunate. They gotta be hairy. All these dudes are hella old. All right, so the other thing that's really cool about these guys is they can take a Sanguinary Banner, which adds 1 to the objective control characteristic of models in the bearer's unit. So because that +1 goes after a set to whatever, if they're battle shocked, they're still OC1, which I really like.
Oh. Add 1 to the objective control, and that takes place after aura abilities?
Well, they're after like set abilities. So if their objective control is set to 0, that happens before you add 1 to it.
And how did you determine that was the order of operations?
It always works that way. It's whatever it's set to, and then multiply and divide, and then add and subtract come last. I have messed this up a number of times, mostly on the Melta rule. So, for instance, if you have something that's half damage, that doesn't apply to Melta because half happens before you add 2.
Can we, okay, so there's an actual, like a PEMDAS equivalent that is appropriate for within Warhammer calculate. What is the order of operations? It's set?
Actually, the way that I remember it is it's set and then PEMDAS.
SPEMDAS.
Yes, it's SPEMDAS.
Okay, so if you're going to set anything to a number, that happens before any operations, and then you do the regular. I mean, I doubt parentheses and exponents will be involved often.
Well, I mean, we'll see what happens with rules bloat over the next couple of editions, but...
Yeah, if you have the hairs of Askellen, then you get your strength power squared.
Yeah. Oh my god, that'd be so rough.
Strength 6? 36 strength! Right?
So basically, you got the squad, you got a bunch of attacks with either the swords or the spears. You're going to have 2 Inferno pistols in the squad if you're taking 6 of them. And you have the 1 banner, which basically says, hey, even if you battle shock them, they can still hold objectives, which is really sweet. Also, that effectively makes them OC2 if they are not if they're not battle shocked, which can be really nice. So they hold objectives pretty well. Also, they are fairly expensive, 130 points for 3 of them, or 260 points for 6.
I feel a lot of satisfaction now when I see squads that are just straight 2 times, point cost. That just makes me happy. I'm like, yes, this is familiar, as it should be.
Yeah, but I definitely know that, like, if you have a large squad, you can just stack buffs on them more efficiently. So I get it. I get it. I haven't seen anywhere having larger squads is cheaper. Oh, that's not true. Death Company are like that because they can't have as many special weapons. I'm sure there are other exceptions. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, like where you can have 1 per squad of X, Y, and Z. Then the bigger squad is way less of a benefit.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm kind of hoping that War Gear points come back at some point, but I'm not unsatisfied with this.
I'm just hoping that we can get the per model point basis back. I like being able to take a squad of 7 or like 8. I think that was cool.
Actually, I really missed that. Plus, I get a lot of guys out of the bid spin, so I definitely have just like random guys. I'm like, but I have 7 of these. I can't use the other 2? Like, what the hell?
The most exciting recent acquisition from the bid spin being the Banshee dude.
Yes, I found an old metal Banshee Exarch. Actually, that's not fair. Dane found an old Banshee metal Exarch.
I did?
And gifted it to me because he's a good brother.
I found the old out of print Striking Scorpion Exarch.
Yeah.
Both of them in the bid spin in crisp white metal, untouched, never painted. It was weird.
So lucky. I really want to have all the metal aspect warriors, but that's not really what this is about. This is about the Golden Cheek boys.
Moving on. The Golden Cheeks. I want to see these bums in action.
They are definitely investment. They are more points than Terminators, but they also fly and have these awesome blades, so I get it. So, there are 2 different options in terms of who can come with the Sanguinary Guard. Whoops. So, as we were discussing, the first thing I want to talk about is
the difference between the close combat weapons.
Yeah. Do you go with the blades or do you go with the spears? Sorry, the Encarmine blades or the Encarmine spears, which, as we all know, means something we don't know, and I'm hoping that you'll put in the comments.
The real red sword or the real red stick.
Okay, so as we're looking at those 2 options, I do want to point out the spears get fewer attacks at base than the swords do.
Okay.
And if you're in the Liberator Assault group you're in the lag, right, and you're charging because that +1 attack, they get 20% less attacks, which is meaningful. The other thing that I think really makes a big difference is the spears are only AP2, whereas the swords are AP3. So if you're going into something with a 2-up save, that means they're doing 25% less damage per strike. They're going into something that saves on 3s, it's 20% less damage per strike.
Okay.
Unless, of course, there are invulns and other things, asterisks, as all things in Warhammer are.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, the swords are just flat better in almost every case, especially if you have access to Lance. If you don't have access to Lance, like you're using the Angelic Host attachment, I feel like that's the one place where I feel like the spears might need a second look, just because without access to +1 to wound, getting that +1 to wound is probably worth its weight in gold.
That's what Lance is +1 to wound on the charge?
+1 to wound on the charge.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So I feel like...
I always picture like a giant ballista arrow, like, and they're just pinned. Oh! It seems way more devastating. Oh, +1 to wound? No, it's okay.
Yeah, it just doesn't work as well when the guys are running into the ballista arrows, you know?
Yes.
They just tend to be less pinned by them.
Yes.
So I think swords are just flat better. I feel like I would take the swords in every single case, unless I was running Angelic Host, because all of these different... They got a lot of tricks in there, but I feel like they could really use it because they are the main damage dealers of the army, especially in Angelic Host, where they're going to need it.
Because there's no other real damage buffs in Angelic Host, right? It's all mobility and picking up and down.
I think you can give your squads lethal hits and precision.
Sweet, but that's still not compared to the array of options you have as a Blood Angels player. Usually, that's pretty small.
Yeah, the couple of times I played Angelic Host, I really felt like I was struggling to punch up a lot. So having Lance would have been
Was
really,
that against
nice.
me?
Once against you and once against Joe.
Ah, okay. You remember what I was playing at the time?
I'm pretty sure you were playing Orcs, but I don't remember specifically.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah. All right, so I'm saying swords unless you're doing Angelic Host, then maybe spears. Actually, I feel like spears would look pretty good in that case. But anyway, moving on. So, beyond the close combat weapons, there are a couple of different character options, but only 2 of them. One of them is the captain with the jump pack, who's got, move 12, toughness 4, 3-up save with a 4-up invuln. 3-up save, not 2-up save. That's a little rough. 5 wounds, OC1. You can run him with a bunch of different options. I find that the Power Fist seems to be the one that is the most frequently taken, although the relic weapon, because it gets an extra attack at strength 5, can be pretty good into some targets that are lower toughness. But
which I can't imagine is what you expect to throw your Sanguinary Guard into, so that sounds pretty...
Yeah, the Sanguinary Guard are usually going into big things if you can manage it, so I feel like the Power Fist really makes sense.
Yeah.
Even though mine doesn't have one, but that's okay. In terms of pistols, you can give them whatever. I usually give them a plasma pistol. Unfortunately, we don't have a Blood Angels captain with jump pack, so I can't take the Inferno pistol, which is really weird, but that's okay. The other things that are really sweet, Angel's Wrath. On the charge, you give the entire squad +1 strength, which is notable. And more importantly is the Rites of Battle. Once per battle round, 1 unit from your army with this ability can use this basically to get a free or reduced price stratagem. Wow, which, because you're going to be buffing this squad basically every turn, I feel like you're just going to use that every turn. Mm-hmm. So every turn, the captain saves you a CP.
That's pretty sweet.
Every battle round, sorry. And the other thing to mention is that the captain, because he is not a named character, can take enhancements, which we will talk about later. I probably should have mentioned the other character unit first, because it's the one that everyone seems to take with the Sanguinary Guard if they can, which is Grandpappy Dante.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
The Grandpaps, the oldest man amidst all the Space Marines.
He's only 1,500 years old. Like, 1,500 is the new 30, I'm sure.
Yes, for sure. Everyone else looks like they're 12.
Yeah, so he's toughness 4. He has a 2-up save with a 4-up invuln. He's got 6 wounds. For ranged combat, he's got the Perdition Pistol, which is another Melta pistol, but it's Melta 2, sustained hits D3, strength 9 instead of 8, AP 4, damage D6.
Wow, that thing is mean. Also, what does Perdition mean again?
I don't know.
Isn't there a movie?
Yeah, Road to Perdition. That's what I was just thinking.
Is that spelled differently?
I don't know. We should ask Bruce Willis.
My phone is recording, so I won't be able to find out for us. And the Axe of Mortalis!
Yeah. So remember, the Power Fist is only going to get 5 attacks. It means 6 if you're in Liberator Assault Group and you're charging. The Axe Mortalis has built-in lethal hits, gets 8 attacks, hitting on 2s naturally. Strength 8, AP 3, damage 2. So this melee weapon it's pretty badass when you compare it to just a regular Power Fist. Like, this is really devastating. So he actually has a lot of melee ability, and we should definitely talk about that.
Which that seems like it would pair well with the sanguinary dudes.
It does seem that way. Also, again, the sanguinary guards, you're taking the swords, they all have AP3 damage too. He's AP3 damage too.
Perfect
which
matching profiles.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I like to have all my profiles match up. It's not the most important thing, but it's nice. It allows you to optimize better.
I feel like that's a thing Space Marine players get to do and to think about, while Chaos Space Marine players are like, well, my Terminators are allowed to have one autocannon and one flamethrower. It's like, I don't know. Anyway, go for it. Oh, what would you can talk about Warden of the Imperium Nihilus?
Yeah, so as Warden of the Imperium Nihilus, he also allows you both to add 1 to advance and charge rolls, which could effectively be plus 2 inches to your threat range, which could make a huge difference. And all of the models in his unit get plus 1 to hit. At ranged and in close combat. I mean, their ranged is not that good, but still.
How much is he? He's only 130 points?
He's 130 points compared to the captain's 85.
That still seems like a freaking bargain after what I'm looking at here.
Well, that seems to be the common wisdom here.
Yeah, everyone's playing with Dante.
It seems like everybody takes Dante. And I understand, because again, I'm looking at this weapon profile. And then if you're adding 1 to the hit roll, that adds 25% to the damage output of the squad. Immediately, which is huge.
Yeah, that's massive.
That's massive. Also, he's got the death mask of Sanguinius, because everybody's terrified to look upon his face. And in the fight phase, every enemy within 6 inches has to take a battle shock test at -1.
Ooh, he's so scary. He's like the Phantom of the Opera.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I bet he's horribly scarred under that mask.
Only half of it. Don't worry, he only abducts young women.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God.
Isn't that what the Phantom of the Opera does? Yeah, they're like, he's just misunderstood. Meanwhile, he's just capturing young women and taking them into the frickin' sewers. All right, anyway.
To each their own.
Okay. All right, so, that could potentially prevent other units from being able to use their stratagems while they're confronting his unit, which can situationally be pretty awesome, but is not super reliable. Yeah. All right, so looking at a couple of detachments, I want to focus on 2 detachments in particular, but we're going to look at a few others. We have the Liberator Assault Group, which, as their detachment rule, in essence, gives you +1 attack and +2 strength on the charge. I love this detachment.
With their red thirst.
With their red thirst.
I don't know, I'm kind of picturing a Kool-Aid alternative here. Oh, yeah.
Did someone say blood? Perfect. And a couple of enhancements in this attachment that I really like. The one I really love is Speed of the Primarch, which is once per game in the fight phase, you get to give the squad fight first.
And Dante's sort of the de facto Primarch, right?
No, he's the chapter master.
Oh.
Yeah, so basically you get 1 Primarch and then...
Well, I guess de facto meaning effectively. He is effectively the Primarch?
No, because there's only ever 1 Primarch for a chapter, and then you get a new chapter master every time the old one dies. So, like, the Primarch would be like, their gene father.
Yes. Okay, so really the issue you have is whether or not he's the leader and fits in as the equivalent comparatively as to all of the Primarchs that are for the other chapters. Thank you.
It is interesting that, Reboot Gilliman basically is in charge of the Imperium Sanctum, and he's in charge of the Imperium Nihilus. So he basically runs the Imperium for, half the galaxy, which is pretty cool.
Okay, so...
Why he's showing up on the battlefield, I have no idea.
Okay, so this dude is basically given all the responsibilities of a Primarch. Right? Thank you. Also, what if... I have a question for all the viewers here. If I were to draw a Robo Girly Man shirt, would you want to buy it? Because I could make that so funny!
Also, you should check out the Dano art channel, because he makes some really awesome stuff.
I do that.
Yeah.
If you want a Robo Girly Man shirt, tell me a bunch of times in the comments.
Yes.
It'll be hilarious.
Exactly.
All right, go for it.
The other enhancement that I really like is Icon of the Angel. I used a similar one in 9th edition a lot with the Sanguinary Priest. Essentially, anytime anyone wants to fall back from their squad, they have to take a desperate escape test. And if they're already battle shocked, they have to take a desperate escape at -1.
God, that never sounds that bad until you realize it's happening to your guys, and then you're like, oh my God!
Last edition, I used to love to just like take 10 Vanguard veterans with the Sanguinary Priest with that enhancement, and then just try and touch everything.
It's the meanest, stupid. I hated it.
I loved
it.
It
was truly a flying castle.
Yeah, so you can kind of do that to a lesser extent with these guys, although you're only going to have 7 members in the squad, even if you max them out.
And there's no way to revive them. Your old flying castle used to have the Sanguinary Priest reviving dudes.
Was it reviving or just a 5-up heal? I think it was just a 5-up. No, I think it was just a 5-up heal of pain.
Okay.
But yeah, that's still... And a 4-up invulnerable because of the shields. Oh, I loved it. Anyway. All right, so that's Liberator Assault Group. A couple of stratagems that they have that's really notable here. In Liberator Assault Group, they've got Red Rampage, which allows you to give a squad Lance or Lethals, or both if you want to take Battle Shock. I usually just take the Lance, unless the Lethals are really going to be meaningful. You got Savage Echoes, so if somebody charges your squad, you can still give your squad +1 attack and +1 strength, even if you didn't charge. There's Aggressive Onslaught, which is nice because the detachment does give you access to advance and charge. Again, that makes a big difference for Dante because...
Also giving them +1 to advance.
And +1 to charge. Yep. And Relentless Assault, which is they get fallback and charge, or fallback and shoot and charge if they're willing to take Battle Shock, but they're shooting.
Well, I'm shooting with the Angel Bolt.
Yeah. Angelus Bolterstein. Right. The other detachment that I'm seeing a lot of use for them is the Angelic Inheritors detachment, which is a little bit more complicated. They got Legacy of the Angel, and essentially they have 3 buffs. And at the beginning of the game, you get to choose 2 of them. You either get fallback and charge, reroll 1s to hit and wound, which is the one that you definitely take, and reroll advance and charge rolls, which is the one that I can't imagine taking unless I have a really good reason. I feel like I would usually take the first 2.
The Angelic Inheritors is a detachment?
It's a detachment.
Okay, so faction rule there should say detachment rule.
Oh, bummer. Yep, that should be detachment rule.
Okay, because I was like, why? We're not even talking about... Oh, God. Yeah. Okay, so they can get 2 out of 3 in this detachment.
Yeah, so as a default, I would give them reroll 1s to hit and wound and fallback and charge, because you need the fallback and charge in this detachment.
Fallback and charge would be so useful. Reroll advance and charge rolls could be nice.
But they also, there's no access to advance and charge in the codex either. So reroll advance and charge just seems kind of neutered if you can only do one or the other.
And you're already moving fast as hell.
Yeah, okay, exactly.
I agree. Good point.
A couple of enhancements to look at. The one I really like is the Blazing Icon, which basically makes the unit immune to Overwatch, which is really huge for Space Marines because we don't have very much access to that. I kind of feel like this gives you a tool to address something that otherwise you just wouldn't have the ability to address.
The blazing icon causes you to not be able to... It's just so bright. As soon as you come out, everyone's like, oh my God!
Overwatch is terrible because no one can see anything.
That's
basically a perpetual, just like flashbang grenade.
It's a perpetual flashbang. Yeah, that's freaking cool. But that's useful as hell for you.
Mm-hmm. There's also the Ordained Sacrifice, which allows the model to get back up on a 2-up and be on 3 wounds. So the first time you die, you probably come back with 3 wounds.
Well, that's pretty swizzle.
I mean, it's okay, but I also feel like, unless you get precisioned out, your captain is going to be the last person alive anyway, so... I mean, it's not nothing. And I feel like it can have some play because it allows you to die and then pop back up still on the same objective if your opponent fails to take it from you.
And he always has to be the last one to die, right?
Yeah, character has to be the last one to die.
I know that at least one game I got that incorrect quite a while ago because I had an invulnerable save on my Lord next to just one. There was only like one more chosen hanging out with him. I was like, well, I guess the invulnerable save, and it worked. And I was like, yes, why don't I do this all the time? And then I found out I wasn't allowed to, and I was like, cool. Whoops.
Also, the really important thing I should mention at this point, I should have mentioned this earlier, is that Dante is a named character. He's not allowed to take enhancements. These enhancements can only be put on the captain.
Oh.
Yeah. Something else I want to point out about this detachment is, again, there's no access to advance and charge, but because the squads are going to be re-rolling 1s to hit and 1s to wound, Oath of Moment just is less effective in this detachment on character squads. So normally, if you're hitting on 3s, Oath of Moment gives your squad a 33% increase to their damage output. In this detachment, it only gives you about a 14.3% increase in their output.
Because
if you're hitting on 3s, and if you're hitting on 2s, it doesn't do anything for you, except maybe make it possible to fish in certain situations.
I'm not sure I fully understood that. Normally, Oath of Moment's going to give you reroll hits or +1 to hit.
It gives you reroll hits.
+1 to wound. If you are
you're not going to get +1 to wound.
But this is divergent,
yeah.
so not that. So it's just reroll hits, and reroll hits are not as good in Angelic Inheritors.
Because you're already rerolling 1s to hit.
Oh, well, supposing that's one of the 3 that you pick, because you could also choose that as not one of your 3 benefits.
I've never heard of anyone doing that.
It seems like a roundabout way to try and, yeah, I don't know if that would be.
I kind of feel like you're going to take reroll 1s to hit and wound every time.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a pick between the other 2, and usually I'd go with pick number 1.
Fall back and charge, reroll, advance, and charge rolls, and then just make sure you always are more careful with your Oath of Moment pick. Could be pretty sweet. But anyway, okay, I see what you're saying. Go ahead. Go forward.
Because you don't have the +2 strength and +1 attack, I feel like you need a damage buff in this squad. Because nothing is going to hit anywhere near as hard in Angelic Inheritors, and way more so if you don't take option 2.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think you're right. Okay.
Yeah, so that means your Oath of Moment is still useful, but you're probably not going to be using it on character squads very often.
Right.
Yeah, so Oath of Moment ends up being just played differently if you're using this detachment.
Yeah, you're not, whatever you're throwing your big sanguinary guys at, you're definitely not using this on. Because they're already reroll. They hit on 2s anyway, right?
With Dante, they hit on 2s. With the Captain, they hit on 3s.
Okay, so there's literally no reason to use Oath of Moment on anything if you're you're about to tell me I'm wrong.
Well, we are going to discuss this a little bit later. The one reason that you might take it is because it does allow you to fish, and because you have easy access to lethals, Oath of Moment can be useful sometimes, but it still is not as big a buff as it would be in other places. Right. So it has some use value, but it's just diminished in this detachment.
Yeah, fishing for lethals when you hit on 2s sounds pretty sweet. If you're hitting up, punching up, which they probably are going to be often. Okay, I take back.
But remember, you're also going to be rerolling 1s to wound, which also makes your lethals a little bit less effective. So it's a weird thing here. So that's kind of the basics of Angelic Inheritors. Real quick, I want to talk about some of the stratagems that are notable for Angelic Inheritors, but the ones that are going to help out the Sanguinary Guard. We got Focus Fury, which gives lethals and melee, and if it is a character squad, then you also get Lance. So you get Lance and lethals if you have the Captain or Dante in there.
Perfect for when you're very angry at specifically one thing.
Yes, only one thing though.
Focus Fury! Ah! I hate that.
I prefer the unfocused rage, but I guess it's more of a chaos thing, so I get it. There's also Unto the Burning Skies, which allows you to put a jump pack unit back into strategic reserve. If it's not an engagement, if it's the Sanguinor, they can go back into reserve even if they are an engagement.
Oh my god.
Which is pretty nice.
I'm excited to face the Sanguinor someday.
I know.
I'm terrified too. Wait, actually, I think I did face him once.
Yeah, I go back and forth between using Mephiston and the Sanguinor. I kind of like Mephiston a little bit more, but the Sanguinor is pretty sweet.
And the new model is pretty cool. I think I feel
except for the head. I don't like the new Sanguinor head.
Well, that's such an easy thing to replace. I really like the way it's suspended over the fabric or the scripture. I think that was a really effective solution. Anyway,
but the other one looks like that too, and I think I prefer it just a little bit more. I like the old version.
I feel like
they're very similar.
Does it have the chalice of blood?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
it basically looks like the same model, but then they gave the new one like an ape head. I don't know what the deal is with that. All right. Also, in Angelic Inheritors, there's Instant of Grace. So all these buffs apply to character just for an instant. And basically, it makes the Fates think that there's a character in your unit. So you'd be like, ha ha, actually, there's a captain here. But
I am Spartan.
Yes, I am. Nice. Also, in Angelic Inheritors, there is In the Shadow of Great Wings, which I love, which basically makes a unit unshootable outside of 18 inches. So the nice thing about Angelic Inheritors is that it really also supports ranged combat in addition to close combat. So if you've got a bunch of Hellblasters it's nice to be like, nah, you can't shoot them outside of 18 inches.
Mm.
So it's kind of like the dual detachment. The last detachment that I want to mention a little bit, which is less notable because it just can't give as many buffs to melee, is the Angelic Host, which is really, really cool, but people are not having great success with it.
This was the super mobile one, right?
This is the jump pack specific detachment, and their detachment rule allows you to, every turn, take 2 jump pack units and put them back into strategic reserve, which is really sweet. There's an enhancement in there, which I really like, which is the Gleaming Pinions, which allows you to give a unit a 6-inch reactive move anytime something comes within 9 inches of it.
Damn, that's sick. Also, I see there that upon Wings of Fire, the larger the battle, the more units you can pull out. And
True.
You have a crap load of deep strike. I imagine in a 3,000 point match with an onslaught, taking 3 off the board and being able to put them anywhere, like basically being an uppy downy means infinite maximum mobility. So if you have infinite maximum mobility that goes across a 90-inch battlefield, you could frickin' move your forces anywhere you wanted. This feels like it would be really sweet in a huge battle.
I had so much fun with this detachment, but it was really weird because it's mostly a bunch of movement shenanigans and like getting places in different places and using the inceptors and the suppressors to like maximum effect, because then you can just reposition your guns where you need them to go. But there's not really very much melee threat buff. Obviously, you can use Oath of Moment. There's Martial Exemplars, which allows you to give a jump pack unit lethals and precision.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, that is true. Again, notably, and this is only in the fight phase, so this does not work on Inceptors or Suppressors, unfortunately.
Right. Inceptors, Suppressors.
There's Death from the Skies, which gives you access to advance and charge. Advance and shoot and charge, actually. But again, we don't care about the shooting so much with the Sanguinary Guard. And Unbridled Ardor.
Oh, so much art. It's so ardorous. What does that mean?
I don't know. This is why I teach math.
Someone tell us what ardor is. And all those other words we didn't know.
So in this detachment, Unbridled Ardor is kind of one of the big ones because basically after one of your units dies, you play Unbridled Ardor, and then the unit that killed it, all of your Sanguinary Guard for the rest of the game get to reroll hit rolls and wound rolls against that unit.
What?
Yeah.
One unit from your army that was just destroyed. You can use this. Just any unit. Use this on them, even though it was just destroyed, and all your Sanguinary Guard. Wow! So you get a Judgment token that applies exclusively to Sanguinary Guard.
I don't remember how the Judgment tokens work. I think it's +1. But it's essentially like a super Judgment token. Reroll hits and reroll wounds, all of them, is pretty crazy. Especially considering this is a detachment that doesn't really give you very many melee buffs, so you're just going to be attacking at strength 6. So reroll all of your wounds could be really nice.
Yeah, the Judgment tokens definitely are not that effective. I think they're like +1 to wound or something.
I think the first one is +1 to hit, and the second one is +1 to wound.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about this detachment a lot because for the most part, you're just going to get base output with these guys. You can give them lethals, but the lethals, again, are not going to be huge against most targets. They will make an impact. So when I'm talking about these units and they're going into various units, I'm going to first simulate what happens if you have no buffs. That's pretty similar to what you can expect in the Angelic Host.
Okay.
So, so when I run these simulations, anything that's just base, that's basically this detachment. So, in effect, we're going to be comparing all 3 of these detachments and how well the Sanguinary Guard run in them and what you can kill in those various detachments.
Okay, so we're comparing 3 detachments. But we're actually comparing 2, but you're saying that our baseline assessment of each of them is effectively our Angelic Host, since there's nothing Angelic Host can do to improve it.
You can give lethals, but again, the lethals are going to be way less significant than +2 strength and an attack and +1 to wound and...
Right.
So it's going to be pretty similar to this. Oh, before we go on, comment for the comment gods!
Comment for the throne thing!
All right. Next up, really quick, I just want to talk about the difference between Liberator Assault Group, which gives +2 strength and +1 attack on the charge, versus the Angelic Inheritors, which just give you reroll 1s to hit and reroll 1s to wound. barring lethals, because this doesn't take that into account, it would actually be slightly less if you had lethals. That basically means character units in Angelic Inheritors just get plus 36% to their output, regardless of target.
That's +2 strength and +1 attack. And
No.
reroll hit rolls of 1.
That's reroll hit rolls of 1 and reroll wound rolls of 1.
All of that gives a 36% benefit.
Yeah. So if you're rerolling your hit and wound rolls of 1, you get plus 36% to your damage, basically across the board. Again, that does not take lethals into account. So if you had lethals, this would actually be a slightly smaller benefit because you have some dice that won't be rolling the wound at all.
I'm having trouble understanding why it is that +2 strength would have a constant benefit.
+2 strength and +1 attack, that's Liberator Assault Group.
Oh.
Yeah, so these might be backwards. I can see why that's confusing. So +2 strength and +1 attack, that's Liberator Assault Group. Reroll hits and wounds of 1, that's Inheritors.
Okay, not to mention you also have rows for different toughness values.
Right.
Which is why this is okay.
Yeah, so I'm trying to show that Inheritors basically just always get the same buff regardless of target. But in the Liberator Assault Group, because you have +2 strength and +1 attack, that's going to make a bigger and bigger difference.
Yeah, I think
against tougher targets.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense now. I'm sorry. I do think having that Swift flopped.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, essentially what these numbers are is like plus. So the first roll is this first number is what you get from the +2 strength. The second number is what you get from +1 attack.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So if you multiply those things together, that gives you roughly your benefit. So again, against really hard targets, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, so you have there that it is 2 times more effective as a result of +2 strength.
Mm-hmm.
Because
you're going from strength 6 to going to strength 8. So you're going from wounding on 6s to wounding on 5s, which is twice as effective.
Because all the Sanguinary Guard have strength 6 swords.
Yeah. Actually,
gotcha. So your strength 6 sword is bringing you to strength 8, which means you're no longer half of the toughness.
Right.
Which is why ×2.
Exactly.
Okay, so all of these. Yeah. Okay.
So I kind of messed up on that. This is specifically for the swords.
If you were mess up, all this is correct. Yeah. It's just not very well laid out.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you can't compare with anybody because you have to keep it secret from me so you can show me.
Yeah.
So, like, I get it.
I did think about that, but then I totally forgot to fix it. So, but even in the smallest case, even against toughness 4, you can see that Liberator Assault Group is just a bigger buff.
Right.
Like Liberator Assault Group is a huge, gigantic increase to your damage output.
+2 strength and +1 attack is big.
Yeah.
Reroll hits and wounds of 1 seems, definitely not as effective.
Yeah, I mean, it's consistent. That's nice, but it's not as big of a buff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
This one also might not be laid out as well as I'd wished. So damage done to a variety of targets.
That's why I'm here. I'm going to help pick it apart for you, and then everyone will understand the crazy mayhem.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's see what we got.
So damage done to a variety of targets, not including Oath of Moment, with 6 swords. So basically what I did was I picked 4 targets of various toughnesses: Marines, Aggressors, Invictor, and Repulsor. And this is how many damage you expect to do without any buffs, basically what you get in Angelic Inheritors.
Okay.
Darn it. Angelic Host. This column tells you what you get from reroll 1s to hit, reroll 1s to wound, and also using Focused Fury, so you get Lance and Lethals. And you can see there is a huge increase here.
Yeah.
So,
but that's with a stratagem.
That is with a stratagem,
yeah. The stratagem.
Right. Mm-hmm. This is the damage you get in Liberator Assault Group if you use Red Rampage, but you're only using the Lance part. Most of the time, I don't take lethals also, because then you have to battle shock your unit, which is not great. Right. And so these are the two that you can kind of compare, because this is Inheritors with a stratagem. This is Liberator Assault Group with a stratagem. You can see they're pretty darn close, but the Liberator Assault Group definitely has more damage output. And then if you decided to use Red Rampage, but also take lethals, which means you're battle shocked, notice this. It does increase your damage output.
Not by that much.
It makes a bigger difference once you get to the really tough targets. Yeah. So, again, this highlighting is just to compare Inheritors versus Liberator Assault Group with the CP without battle shock. I feel like these are the most direct comparison. And they're really similar.
Right. Yeah. And it makes sense. Okay, yeah. That you'd only be using the, you'd only be tempted to use something that causes a battle shock test if it were lethals on a really tough thing.
Which it could make sense sometimes. It just sucks because then you can't use other stratagems, notably Armor of Contempt, which they love in your following phase.
Right, because these guys are all saving on 2s, so that Armor of Contempt really is
right. So I end up using, I normally run Liberator Assault Group. That's my go-to. And I usually end up spending 2 CP on them a turn, 1 on Red Rampage and 1 on Armor of Contempt. So not getting that second option would kind of suck.
Expensive.
So things to notice, Dante's +1 to hit is more impactful on Inheritors, where it gives them a plus 29% to their output, as opposed to plus 25% in Liberator Assault Group.
That's actually not that big a difference either.
No, but he is more impactful there because of the reroll ones to hit. So if everything's hitting on 2s, reroll ones to hit is pretty nice.
Right.
Yeah. So if you have Dante in the squad, that's actually going to put their damage output somewhere pretty similar to the Liberator Assault Group, because there's not really that much of a difference anyway. Yeah. But Dante and Inheritors don't synergize very well with Oath of Moment because they're already re-rolling ones to hit. So re-rolling all of your hits, especially if you're hitting on 2s.
They're literally the same thing.
Yeah. The one thing to mention is that fishing does actually make sense with the Dante squad, because if you're wounding on 5s and you have lethals, then it does actually make sense to fish for those lethal hits.
Right, because now your lethal just became worth 3 wound rolls.
But actually a little less than that, because you're re-rolling 1s to wound.
Oh.
Which, I had to think about that. So normally if you were wounding on 4s, you'd break even if you were fishing, but because you're already re-rolling 1s to wound, it's a slight detriment if you're wounding on 4s. So it's only worth it if you're hitting on 2s and wounding on 5s. Then you're going to fish. Otherwise, you're not.
Got it.
I guess I should mention that if you're hitting on 3s and wounding on 6s, it's also...
That would also, yeah, that makes sense.
But since so often you have Lance or +1 to wound, you're almost never wounding on 6s anyway, so...
Right.
Yeah. With Oath of Moment, there is a higher damage potential overall with the Liberator Assault Group. You just can kill more stuff in Liberator Assault Group. But you also don't have any support for ranged combat, which is, again, why Inheritors are so popular right now.
Right, because the suppressors and other Essers.
Just any other shooters are really going to like that. Plus, in Inheritors, you can get Sustained Hit 1 at range, which is pretty nice, because the other Blood Angels Detachment don't give you anything for range whatsoever. I also want to talk about their pistols a little bit, because I've played a lot of games where I stressed a little bit about, do I want to advance? Because if I advance, I can't shoot. But their shooting is, they're going to get 8 shots with the Angelus Bolters, 12-inch range, strength 4. This should say AP 0, damage 1.
Right, so they're bolt pistols that shoot twice.
Yeah, they're bolt pistols that shoot twice.
Sweet.
And they're not even the heavy bolt pistols. They're the regular bolt pistols that shoot twice. Yeah. And you got 2 shots with the Inferno pistols that are strength 8, AP 4, damage 3, and Melta 2.
Oh my god. Completely polar opposite.
To get that Melta, you got to get within 3 inches now. So most of the time you're doing D3 damage. So as I've done this, because they have all damage 2 weapons, I frequently don't put the Angelus Bolters into the same target I'm going after, because your chances of getting 2 wounds are incredibly low. And if you get 1, then you've just wasted it.
Right.
Because you got damage 2 weapons. Unless you're going into Terminators or wound 3 things, I guess. So I guess if you're going into...
So the Angelus Bolter's a damage 1 weapon.
Yeah. So if you strip 1 wound off the first model, then it only takes 1 strike with the Encarmine Blade to finish it off.
Because the Encarmine Blade the Encarmine Blade is a damage 2 weapon.
Everything they have is a damage 2 weapon. All their close combat weapons are damage 2 weapons.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if I was going into 3 wound infantry, I might put the Angelus Bolters into the same target, but most of the time I'm just going for incidental fire on something else with those. I don't really worry about those too much. The Inferno pistols, on the other hand, are worth looking at. I wanted to see how much damage the 2 Inferno pistols would do. So on our table, we've got the same 4 targets, hitting on 2s, hitting on 3s, hitting on 2s with Meltas, or hitting on 3s with Meltas. You can see that into Marines, those Inferno pistols are likely to kill 1, basically. into aggressors, it will kill half an aggressor or a whole aggressor if you made it into melter range.
One whole aggressor.
Right. Against something that's toughness 8, like an Invictor, you're going to strip off 1 or 2 damage, or 2 or 3 damage if you're in melter range.
Well, like I'm really struggling in my head to imagine how you could ever end up in melter range unless it's because you were shooting it already in close combat.
You
would have to just completely see them coming and be like, "It's fine."
Well, I will be talking a little bit later about how I like to run these guys, but if you rapid ingress them, you have a really good shot of being within 15 inches of the target at the beginning of your turn.
Point. Okay.
Yeah. So that can totally happen. Against the Invictor, against something tough like a Repulsor, basically 1 damage or 2 damage if you're in melter range. Which is not nothing. I mean, this as we all know, 2 or 3 damage can make the difference between killing something and not killing something, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But compared to a lot of their other damage, I feel like this is slightly incidental. So if you can make it in Inferno range, or in range of those Inferno pistols, great. If you feel like you need to take the advance to guarantee that you're going to make your charge, I would just go for the advance every time, if you have the option.
Rather than shoot this.
Yeah. I mean, in Angelic Inheritors, you don't have the option, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
In Angelic Inheritors, you can't shoot your...
you can't advance and charge. Right. But in Liberator Assault Group, if I feel like the advance is going to make the difference, I just don't bother with the shooting. Because failing your charge sucks so bad with these guys.
I feel like advance and charge should be like a standard everybody stratagem, but just have a really high bill. Like, you might have a 1 CP in your detachment, but like there's a 3 CP, I don't know if that even is, a 3 CP stratagem that anybody can use for advance and charge. Because if you really need it, you should be allowed to just blow your whole wad and make it happen.
I like the fact that they restrict it, though. Like, I like the fact that in Inheritors, you have now some support for shooting, but now it's going to cost you in other ways. I like the fact that not everybody gets advance and charge.
What if it were a 4 CP strategy?
I guess. I like just not giving as an option.
Are there any stratagems higher than 2?
Yes. I know I've seen some battle reports with like super heavies or something.
Oh, yeah. I saw the Midwinter Minis one when he was using the Super Mega Titan. And everything is times 4 cost.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That thing
8
is
CP.
so ridiculous. He did win the second battle report with the Warlord Titan.
Nice.
The first time he got completely destroyed with an army that was like half as big. And then the second time, he like upgraded 2 of the guns and spent I don't know how much money on it. And then also expanded the battlefield. So
it's like 100 inches long.
Yeah, it was like... It's like, we just completely, utterly stack the odds in its favor. Then it has a chance. But that was cool. It was fun to watch anyway, just to know what it could do.
Yeah.
Watching him try to move it every time was funny.
So the pistols are going to kill like 1 infantry or strip a couple of wounds off vehicles if you can make it happen. Yeah. The other thing that's really cool about them is their defensive profile is pretty sweet. So first of all, they're saving on 2s. And then if they have a character model in the unit, then they're -1 to hit and -1 to wound. Well, they're always -1 to hit in melee, but they're also -1 to wound in melee if they have a character. So what I did was I just made a really quick table. So down this side, we have a hit roll. On this side, we have the wound roll. So if something, for instance, is hitting on 3s and wounding on 3s, as many things are going to do, then they are 56% more resilient than if they didn't have that rule. Dang. Essentially 56% more resilient than a Terminator is the way that I think of it.
Interesting. If they have -1 to hit and wound.
Yeah.
Which happens when?
Always, as long as they have a character. Oh, in melee.
Okay, so wow, yeah, they're always, that ends up overcoming the 1 less toughness that the Terminators theoretically have over them.
Yeah.
So in melee, they're hands down tougher than Terminators.
Oh yeah, in melee they are tougher than Terminators. But at range, they're a little bit squishier.
Right.
So again, just kind of color coded this. So like in yellow is basically between 25 and 50% increase. This light green is between 50 and 75% increase. And anything that's hitting them or wounding them on 5s is going to have a really, really hard time. Because if you're wounding on 5s, is that even going to happen? That's not even going to happen hardly.
If you're wounding on 5s because they're toughness
4.
Toughness 4. So you'd only be wounding on 5s if you have strength 1, No, if you have
Strength 3 or less.
oh yeah, derp.
Yeah. Actually, I guess only strength 3 because it's strength 2. You're going to be wounding on 6s. I don't know if that happens. Is there anything with strength 2?
I bet you. What are the Gretchen?
The Gretchen.
The Gretchen might be.
So in addition, if there's damage to a weapon that's coming in at them, then that's a further 25% reduction because 3 wounds. Yeah. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, they love Armor of Contempt.
They love Alexandria
It only applies to one attacking unit, but this can be so clutch. I use this on them a lot.
Yeah, you'd be basically saving it for them every time. Because they're going to be the most exposed and they're going to have the biggest benefit. Also
the most expensive because this squad with either one of the leaders is now like 350 pushing 400 points.
Holy good
These
God.
are really, really expensive units. Yeah. All right, so my assessment is that Dante may be better in Angelic Inheritors because he boosts his damage output and allows you to place Oath of Moment somewhere else useful. But he's also going to be requiring a lot of CP to support. So especially in Liberator Assault Group, I actually strongly prefer the Captain because the Captain, first of all, can take an enhancement. So the Captain, first of all, can take an enhancement. Most especially Speed of the Primarch, which gives their squad fights first. I really, really like giving them Speed of the Primarch. I love giving them Speed of the Primarch because once per game fights first on this unit is so clutch. And as I mentioned, especially if you're using them as a rapid ingress threat, you can place them in such a way where you can get a good strike on something and then have your opponent highly disincentivized from engaging them in close combat.
Wow.
So you can potentially get 2 big swings out of this squad, which is my favorite way to run them.
Oh, man. Yeah, because if you drop them in from rapid ingress somewhere where they're not shootable, but they are chargeable, then yeah, bring it at me.
Yeah, exactly.
1v1 me.
1v1 me.
4v, whatever you have. 3 dudes on the captain.
I also love Blazing Icon for ignoring Overwatch because Space Marines don't really have a whole lot of that. So I feel like if you decide to use that enhancement, you're essentially giving your army a tool that it just did not have access to otherwise.
Right. For that one unit, has the perpetual flashbang, right?
Yeah, the perpetual flashbang.
Which matters a heck of a lot more with flamers and your stupid Eldar. You get did your Dire Avengers have Overwatch on 4s or something? For some reason at one point?
Yeah, in the index version, they fired Overwatch on 5s and 4s if they were on an objective.
Dude.
But there are some serious Overwatch threats. I have had things just get completely melted, or you just losing half the squad when you just can't afford it.
Or that friggin' Land Raider. Isn't one of the Land Raiders all flamers? Watch your
Yes. Yeah, one of the Land Raiders is basically all flavors. But I also kind of feel like this is a bit of a moot point because if I was going to be taking 2 of these squads with characters, I would definitely take 1 of each. Because the captains become less effective once you have 2 of them because you can only use that once per battle round.
Right.
So where this is really a question is there are several games where I only run 1 unit of Sanguinary Guards with a character, and then I've got a couple of smaller units of Sanguinary Guards to do other things. But if I'm only taking 1, I personally feel like it's a really close call between the captain and the captain and Dante. Because the free CP, which I never have enough of, and the fights first or the ignores Overwatch are both huge draws for me.
Yeah. Those are terrifying.
Yeah. So part of what I want to do is compare the different detachments, but also compare a squad where that's being led by a captain and a squad led by Dante, so we can determine if you do have to pick between them, which way do you go? Also, I just wanted to mention in Liberator Assault Group with Dante and Oath of Moment, you're getting 97.2% of your hits through. With the captain and Oath of Moment, you're getting 88.9% of your hits through, which means if you consider Oath of Moment, Dante is actually only equating to a 9% increase into their damage output.
With Oath of Moment.
With Oath of Moment, because he gives plus 25% to the squad at base because he gives them +1 to hit. But the +1 to hit equates to a lot less if you have Oath of Moment on the squad.
Gotcha.
Although, again, it can't be discounted that Dante, in a lot of cases, does twice as much damage as the captain does.
Hmm.
Dante is a freaking beast. So he doesn't buff the squad as much as you might think, but he also kills a lot of stuff by himself.
Freaking Dante. I remember being terrified of him since we were kids.
Well, I still like my choice of going with the captain most of the time, but this analysis is really making me think twice on Dante. Before it seemed like an easy choice, and now I'm like, oh, what do I want more? Because they both just offer something different. All right, so now that you know my thoughts and you know exactly the dilemma that I'm going through and trying to figure out, do we pair Dante in the squads or do we pair Captain with the squads? Let's go ahead and do a direct comparison.
So now we're actually going to get to use your program?
Now we're going to look at my program and we're going to go into some Chaos Space Marine bodies. No, wait, actually we're going into Intercessors.
Oh!
You know, I just use Chaos Space Marine body as like a general catch-all term for Space Marine-ish type bodies.
The Space Marine red shirts.
Yes,
They're
exactly.
just here to die. That's why they came.
Or blue shirts in my case. All right, so what we have is we have on the left, this is the output for a captain and 6 Sanguinary Guard with swords.
Okay, it was 6.
And on the right, we have Dante with 6 Sanguinary Guards with swords.
Gotcha.
So in both cases, this is the Liberator Assault group. So you're getting +1 attack and +2 strength, but no other buffs.
Okay.
So what we can see is that the captain squad is going to kill about 17 models with basically 100% chance to kill 5 with rounding.
100% chance to
and
kill
a 99.23% chance to kill 10.
Oh my god.
And Dante's squad has basically 100% chance to kill 10 with rounding.
Mother of pearl. Okay,
A couple of things I want to notice. You are going to notice that like the damage output for Dante's squad is like 50% greater than the captain's squad.
Wow.
Which is nuts. And Dante himself does 10.8 damage as opposed to the captain, which is doing 5.5. So literally twice as much damage from the character.
Wow.
But both of them will very comfortably just completely squish any 10-man squad of Space Marines.
Wow, that's freaking cool and terrifying.
Yeah. So I was going to have another slide where I gave them both stratagems to see what they could do. But I decided that since they're both wounding on 2s anyway, giving them lance and doesn't really help them very much. So this is what they can do against basic Space Marines. Don't bother giving them buffs because they're all dead.
Because they're all freaking dead.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to look at Angelic Inheritors as well. So same kind of breakdown. On the left, we have the Captain's squad. On the right, we have Dante's squad. And in Angelic Inheritors, the Captain's squad is going to kill between 13 and 17 of them. Again, basically 100% chance to kill 5, 98.3% chance to kill 10. Dante's squad, again, with rounding, kills 100% chance to kill 10 of them. We do notice that there is not quite as much of a difference in damage between them in this detachment.
Interesting.
But again, they're just wasting everything. So
what is the Inheritors chapter benefit or detachment rule?
So basically it gives them reroll 1s to hit, reroll 1s to wound.
Okay, yeah. So this one, it's not as big of a benefit with Dante because Dante's ability that he conveys to the squad steps on the toes of the detachment rule that's already there.
Well, it gives them +1 hit. So he doesn't really step on their toes so much. It's just that they're both getting the buff. They're both getting benefits here. If you wanted to take it a step further, though, you could give them both squads Fury, but I have not included Oath of Moment. So this is you're essentially spending 1 CP to give both squads Lance and Lethals. And again, this is absolutely nuts. So with the Captain squad, 99.95% chance to kill 10. With Dante's squad, after 1 million simulations, the smallest number of kills his squad got was 14.
Oh my god.
So I was trying to figure out what are the odds of getting 10 kills. I don't know. It's, I mean, you're going to fail less than 1 in 1 million times. So
you needed to do like a 10 or 100 million simulation, which would be like a 25-minute.
Expected damage with the Dante squad is over 50.
Oh, God.
No, killing between 24 and 27 models.
Holy
So, I mean, yeah. Again, there's nothing that's going to survive this. There's no blob big enough to survive this.
That was just with Fury, and the Fury does...
The Fury gives them Lance and Lethals.
Lance and Lethals.
Yeah. Lance and Lethals both.
Okay, so +1 to wound and 6 is auto.
And again, we haven't even used Oath of Moment yet, so don't bother. Yeah. And the Oath of Moment would have more of an impact on the captain's squad because they're hitting on 3s. It would basically not have an impact on Dante's squad since they're already rerolling 1s anyway and hitting on 2s.
And because they're divergent, they don't get the second half.
Yeah, they don't get the +1 wound. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, they already get +1 wound because of lethal or because of Lance anyway.
Can you have more than +1 to wound?
I don't. I'm pretty sure you can't. I think it caps out at +1 to wound.
Really?
Yeah, +1 to wound, plus or minus 1 to wound, and plus and minus 1 to hit. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, then I know the hit. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But dang.
Yeah.
But dang.
All right. So next up, I wanted to go into something a little bit tougher. Since we had already looked at aggressors, I wanted to look at Terminators because they have an invulnerable save, which is really annoying. Because we were looking at AP3 weapons, so anything with an invulnerable save is really going to be frustrating.
Yeah, all these AP3 weapons took their 3s to 6s.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, let's see the Terminators.
So against Terminators,
Chaos Terminators.
They're not. Oh, I forgot to mention. Also, if you do play Oath of Moment on them, this will buff the captain's squad up to 42.9 damage with Oath of Moment and won't make any difference for Dante's squad. So after Oath of Moment, the captain's squad is only about 15% behind in damage. Yeah. That's important to note. All right, so going into some Terminators. Again, this is really annoying because if there wasn't an invuln, they'd be saving on 3, 4. They'd be saving on 5s, but now they're saving on 4s because of the invuln. This is, again, with Liberator Assault Group. No buffs at all. So this is, +2 strength, +1 attack. The captain squad is going to kill between 3 and 5 Terminators. Dante's squad is going to kill 5 or 6 of them.
I thought that was 66.
Oh, no. 5 or 6.
Holy what? Killed 66 Terminators. That was like, yeah, okay, no. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
3, okay,
So,
5 and 6 Terminators.
Captain squad only going to kill a 5-man squad 37% of the time, whereas Dante squad will kill the 5-man squad 76% of the time.
Wow, the difference is huge, Normic.
Well, I mean, again, though, the captain squad is probably going to leave 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. You don't know. But again, even though it's not a huge difference in damage output, like it's right at this threshold, which can be annoying.
Right. This is that maybe I will wipe the squad, maybe I won't.
But this is without any buffs. So if we play Red Rampage and we give everybody +1 to wound.
That's on the Liberator Assault Group. Yeah,
in Liberator Assault Group. We're not playing Oath of Moment yet. The captain squad kills between 4 and 6. And Dante's squad kills between 6 and 8.
Okay, so now you're starting to feel pretty confident.
Yeah.
Are we within the 80% confidence threshold?
Not for the captain. So the captain squad has a 62% chance of killing them. Dante has a 92% chance to kill them.
Okay, so Dante in Liberator Assault with Red Rampage will kill a 5-man squad.
Yeah. But if we decide to also play Oath of Moment, now the captain squad goes up to 6.6 kills on average. Dante's squad goes up to 7.7 kills on average, meaning the captain squad is, again, about 15% behind, 14% behind.
Wow, okay. So actually it's seen a couple times here. If you can't afford Dante, then just throwing the Oath of Moment on their target might actually just about give them a similar buff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, it seems to be about 15% behind. I didn't calculate the odds of killing a 5-man squad, but if you're killing 6.6 on average, you got pretty good odds to kill 5.
Right.
Because the spread is not very wide. It's like 1. So the captain squad pretty comfortably kills a 5-man squad of Terminators if you play Red Rampage and Oath of Moment.
Gotcha.
But Dante's squad doesn't really need Oath of Moment. You can just put the Oath of Moment somewhere else. All right. Looking at angelic inheritors, again, that's reroll ones to hit, reroll ones to wound. No other buffs. Captain squad kills between 3 and 5 of them. 43% chance to kill 5. Dante's squad kills between 5 and 7 of them. 84% chance to kill 5.
Okay.
By the way, I retooled my program to not give me a million digits. This says 0%, but it's not actually 0%. It's 0% with rounding. There's some chance that you'll kill a 10-man squad, but it's pretty low.
Not worth considering.
Yeah, not worth considering. But buff them up. You're going to give them both focused fury so that they especially hate these Terminators.
So bad.
Then the captain squad kills between 5 and 6 of them. Dante's squad kills between 6 and 8 of them.
All right.
Yeah. So captain has a 77.6% chance to kill them. Dante has a 98% chance to kill them.
Man, that that's a pretty critical 20% bonus.
Yeah, it's true. But again, give them both Oath of Moment. Now the captain squad is killing 6.3 of them. And again, no change for Dante. Doesn't make a difference. So captain squad is about 15% behind.
So do you want to diversify your attacks? Oath a moment over there to shoot the crap out of something and then throw Dante over here? Or do you want to oath a moment and throw your sanguinary guard at something?
And that's the question. Like, if you've got a couple of big damage dealer squads running around, like, where do you want to put it?
Mm-hmm.
So Dante kind of, I mean, that extra damage does make a difference, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. Bigger targets still. Let's take a look at some big tank. I decided to go into the Repulsor Executioner because I'm seeing a lot of Repulsors being played lately. And again, this is Liberator Assault Group. We got no other buffs. We just got the +2 strength, +1 attack. The Captain Squad is doing between 10 and 16 damage, but you need to get 16 wounds through. So only a 34% chance to kill the Repulsor with the Captain. But Dante's Squad does between 16 and 24 damage, giving you an 80% chance to kill the Repulsor.
Okay.
So that crosses my threshold.
Yeah, that crosses the threshold.
Mm-hmm. But again, the Captain Squad, you're probably going to be playing Red Rampage. And if you do, but don't play Oath of Moment, now you're doing between 16 and 24 damage. Again, notice that's very similar to Dante's damage without Red Rampage, giving you an 82% chance to kill the Executioner. Pretty nice.
That's pretty sweet.
Playing Red Rampage on Dante's squad gives you a 98.9, basically 99% chance to kill the Repulsor.
Oh my!
An average of 28 damage against this 16 wound vehicle.
Damn.
And again, as before, notice Dante's damage is about twice as much as the Captain's damage.
I'm confused. How did the Oath of Moment make such a big difference against the Repulsor Executioner?
Oh, there's no Oath of Moment. This is Red Rampage. So basically, you're giving them Lance, so +1 to wound.
Gotcha.
+1 to wound makes a difference because you're going to go from wounding on 5s to wounding on 4s.
Okay, I was like, oh, but +1 to hit. What? No.
Mm-hmm. In Liberator Assault Group, if you're playing Red Rampage, you probably don't need Oath of Moment, but if you did want to put Oath of Moment on it, Captain Squad goes up to 26.6 damage. Again, very comfortably killing the Executioner. Dante's Squad goes up to 33 damage, which is about 19% behind.
Okay, and this is where I want to know. Oath of Moment gives you +1 to hit.
No, Oath of Moment gives you reroll hit rolls.
Reroll hit rolls. Okay, yeah, it will forever give you. There's just so many special rules.
I know.
We're talking about. Okay,
but what that means is, like, Dante's squad just, again, does not benefit as much from Oath of Moment as other squads do.
Right.
So you can buff him up.
Dante in a squad that you want to operate without Oath of Moment.
Yeah, that's mostly what you're seeing here. Because you go from 28.3 damage to 33 damage with Oath of Moment, which is not nothing, but
entirely unnecessary.
Entirely unnecessary, since both of these squads are killing him at over 80% confidence anyway.
Yeah, you need Oath of Moment when you have the Captain, and you do not when you have Dante.
So I guess the next question is, in Angelic Inheritors, can we still take down a Repulsor Executioner? So now you don't get the +2 strength and +1 attack. Instead, you get reroll 1s to hit, reroll 1s to wound. And the Captain Squad is going to do between 12 and 18 damage, giving you a 45% chance to kill the Repulsor. Dante's Squad is doing between 12 and 18 damage also, giving you a 41% chance to kill the
Wow,
repulsor.
okay, here's the first time we've seen one where it's actually the captain is outperforming.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because the captain gives +1 strength, so all the swords go from strength 6 to strength 7, which makes a big difference against toughness 12.
The other thing that every time you give a red rampage here, it's worth pointing out that the captain's getting it for free.
Yeah, exactly. Captain is getting that buff for free.
Okay.
And I am always feeling starved for CP, and because Blood Angels don't have access to additional CP every turn, this is big.
Okay, so I'm sort of feeling that the captain's squad is going to require Oath of Moment, but is going to use less CP, but Dante's squad is going to not require Oath of Moment, but is going to use more CP.
That's exactly the way I'm looking at it.
Interesting.
Plus the additional buff of potentially getting a fight first, or an ignores Overwatch, or a reactive move.
That sounds pretty...
And he's cheaper. They're cheaper.
Wow. I didn't expect you to come through having convinced me that I would go for the captain.
Yeah.
Just because Dante's so cool, but now I'm like...
Yeah. Wow. Again, if you're taking both, it's a moot point. I would take one of each. But so often I have to choose which one do I want. And it's hard. So, in Angelic Inheritors, if you also give them Focused Fury so that they get Lance and Lethals, now the Captain Squad is doing between 22 and 30 damage, giving you a 98% chance to kill this repulsor.
Okay, so super dead.
Dante's squad is doing between 24 and 32 damage, giving you a 99% chance to kill the repulsor.
Super duper, super mega, definitely dead.
Yeah, almost the same. I think I did also, if you give them Oath of Moment, I did. If you give the Captain Squad Oath of Moment, his damage goes from 25.7 to 28.8. Not a huge buff. Dante goes from 28.5 to 29.5 damage with Oath of Moment. Tiny buff. Also, in this calculation, if you gave them Oath of Moment, the reason you would do that with Dante's squad is so that you could go fishing with the swords, but the difference seems really tiny. And in this case, Captain Squad is only about 2% behind.
Damn.
Yeah.
With that free stratagem.
With a free stratagem.
And that's a stratagem you're going to use practically every turn with that.
Yeah, I'm going to use it every turn. The question is, which squad am I going to use it on?
Right. Is there a backup stratagem in the Inheritors?
There's not a backup damage-dealing melee stratagem in either one.
Wow. So actually...
Just one.
We can put a finer point on it. You're either Oath of Momenting or Fury-ing. You're super focusing their Fury. You're doing one or the other. Okay.
Yeah.
Which one do you want? Because you can't use a stratagem in two places. So.
Yeah. Well, in this case, I mean, because of their damage output, you could probably use either or to feel pretty confident about getting the Executioner in this case.
Wasn't there a hot minute just for a second when the captain's ability would allow you to use a stratagem even if it were used somewhere else?
Yeah, they changed that.
Just for a minute, you could do it.
Then that would absolutely tip in the captain's favor.
All day.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, I don't remember if the data sheet that I showed was actually the old data sheet that allowed that, but it's not allowed anymore.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I wanted to go into one more super heavy target. And people have been asking me why I keep picking on Mortarion, so I'm going to wait and pick on Mortarion later.
I was expecting you to say Mortarion, and I was excited to get excited.
I'm sorry. I actually slightly regret not going into Mortarion. I decided I wanted to go into something even more expensive.
Oh.
I wanted to see if the Sanguinary Guard could take down a knight.
Okay.
So we're going to send both of these guys into a Knight Castellan. Castellan? One of those knights. Y'all can tell me, type for me how I say it. That's not going to help, is it?
That doesn't help. I was just going to take guess. Ah, yes.
You say it like this.
That's funny. Unless someone can
All right.
like the phonetics.
So I know that a Knight Castellan, that guy, is going to take an investment. So I just decided to go full bore. So for all of these combos, what we decided to do is we're taking these guys and we're going to use Oath of Moment.
Right.
And we're going to use the relevant stratagem to see if they can take out the Knight.
Which will probably be Fury, Focus Fury, and in the one.
Focus Fury in Inheritors and Red Rampage in Liberator Assault Group.
Got that. Yes.
So for fun, we're going to start with the Inheritors because, as I mentioned, they have a lower damage output overall.
I'm so excited.
So in Angelic Inheritors, God, I already showed that. Yeah. In Angelic Inheritors, the Captain Squad is going to do between 20 and 26 damage.
To its 24 wounds.
To its 24 wounds, giving you a 47, almost 48% chance to kill it.
Wow.
And Dante Squad, by the way, the blades are going to be fishing for 6s.
Right, absolutely.
Fishing for those lethals. They're going to do between 20 and 28 damage, giving you a 53.5% chance to kill it.
Is that Dante on the right?
Dante on the right, Captain on the left.
Gotcha.
So if you go Captain or Dante, either way in Angelic Inheritors, if you max them out, you got roughly 50-50 odds of taking down a Knight Castellan. This dude.
Wow, can you imagine just throwing your 7 guys forward at the foot of the Knight and then they take it out?
I know. They can't fly. They can fly around and hit vital
it's
stuff.
Totally an Attack on Titan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
That's super awesome.
Yeah. So I do want to mention, again, Knight Castellan is 400 points. This squad is just a little bit less than that.
Okay.
So, I mean, these are comparable in terms of point costs.
Wow. Okay,
In the
Liberator,
Liberator,
it may not look, the volume of plastic
right.
does not quite represent.
Doesn't equate. Mm-hmm. And then finally, in Liberator Assault Group, if you give them Red Rampage and Oath of Moment, Captain Squad does between 22 and 30 damage, giving you a 67% chance to kill. Dante's Squad does between 26 and 34 damage, giving you an 88, almost 89% chance to kill that Knight.
Oh my God.
In one go.
An 89% chance.
2 things I want to point out. I have not included their ranged weapons, so you can probably strip off another wound, maybe 2 with the Inferno pistols.
Those meltas, that makes a difference.
And then you can probably get another 3 wounds through if you decide to grenade that mother. Dude. That mother fluffer.
Oh, mother fluffer is a terrible alternative. We're not calling it that.
All right. So, if you manage to get off 4 wounds between grenades and Inferno pistols, Captain Squad now has an 88% chance. Dante Squad now has a 97% chance.
Wow.
So, if you throw everything at this dude, you can fairly comfortably kill a Knight in one shot with either of these combos.
But for both of these, you're spending like 450-ish points.
It's more like 350, 375, somewhere in that range.
Wow, a Knight Castellan is only that?
400 points.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're so intimidating.
All right, so here are my takeaways. It's practically always better to take the swords over the spears. Just take the swords. Don't take the spears. Unless you're doing Angelic Host, then maybe. It's up to you.
You're super committed to it, and you never want to play any other detachments.
Yeah. Pistols don't do that much damage. Even the Inferno pistols are just kind of little extra damage, so don't stress about them too much. If you can, absolutely use them. But if you can't, and you can take an advance instead, and it's necessary, do that. Don't worry about the damage. Yeah. Dante does give the squad more killing potential, but it's like 15% when you consider Oath of Moment against most targets. It ranges between like actually nothing and 19% against like just a handful of targets. So relatively small bonus. Captain Squad requires less CP to be effective. Seriously, don't discount the enhancements on the Captain though, because being able to fight first or get a reactive move or ignore Overwatch are big deals. All of those are a big deal.
And those enhancements are probably like 10 or 15 points.
I think they're 15 to 20 points. But yeah, like somewhere in that range. They still make the Captain a cheaper character than Dante in every case.
Much, but yeah, I still.
Well, yeah, they end up being like 100 or 105 as opposed to his 130.
Yeah.
So it's a good number. Don't fish for lethals unless you are hitting on 2s and wounding on 5s. That is the only time it is worth it to do lethals.
Or 3s and 6s.
Or 3s and 6s if that happens to happen because you don't have Lance. I guess that would only happen if you chose something as Oath of Moment and then they decided to charge you and then you didn't get to. It could happen. But mostly, if you have Dante and you're wounding on 5s, sure. But that's not going to happen very often either. Both of them can comfortably one-shot a night. You might have to invest a lot, but you can totally do it and feel relatively safe doing it, which is pretty nice.
Dude.
So my biggest question for the audience is, if you only picked one, obviously if you're picking 2, you're taking both of them. But if you had to choose between Captain and Dante, who would you go for?
Yeah, it really seems like it doesn't seem like it's come through with an answer, this one or that one. It really feels like subtly different ways that you could sort of use your resources.
Yeah, because Dante will give you overall more damage, but it's just a lot more investment to do it.
I guess it depends more on, you're probably going to be referencing other little strategic sort of army structures that you made. You made a little unit here that you're like, oh, I'm going to need Oath of Moment for them to operate. So you're like, oh, well, then over here, I'll give them Dante.
Yeah.
Or over here, you're like, oh, they're always going to need the focused fury. Then I'm probably going to be like, oh, well, then the captain can be over there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I definitely would say, the way I really prefer to use them, I take a couple of small squads of Sanguinary Guard if I can, but I usually like to take one big squad of Sanguinary Guard and throw a captain in there, give them speed of the Primarch, and then use them as my Rapid Ingress thread. I use my Rapid Ingress thread. So, after I've, cleared a little corridor and killed some stuff, I just drop them down and go and kill something, preferably somewhere where they can't get guns on them, because they're not going to want to charge them if they can help it.
Yeah.
Which means frequently I get 2 rounds of killing out of that squad. That is my big hammer. You got to be careful with them. I mean, you are relying on that fights first when you don't have an extra buff or defensive buff against shooting does mean you have to be careful with your positioning. But I have found that to be so effective and have gotten 2 huge rounds of killing out of them so many times that it'd be really hard for me to switch over to Dante at this point. I know I can get a bigger punch with Dante, but the utility of that captain, running it that way, has been so nice for me. They almost always make up their points.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm terrified of both of them after those numbers.
Yeah.
One-shotting a knight is a terrifying prospect.
I know. I mean, again, they are almost as many points as the knight, but still.
Oh, gosh.
So, Dane, you want to go play some pickleball?
Yeah,
let's go bat some balls around.
Let's go paddle the
bat some balls. All right. Bye, War Feet. Have fun. Bye.
Thank you for watching another episode of Warhammer Math.
For the Emperor!
If you've made it to this point in the video, then you're one of the legends that really helps us keep making videos like this one. We love this community, and if you would like to join us on our Discord, please consider becoming a patron. This project has been a ton of fun, but it's also really expensive and a lot of hard work. So we really appreciate your support, whether that's a thumbs up, or a subscribe, or a share. But if you'd like to support us further, you can definitely buy one of these t-shirts on our web store. Or if you'd like to get one of those new Robot Girly Man t-shirts, let us know. We'd be happy to design one.
All right, try talking normally, because theoretically this is the mic we're going to use to record you.
Cool. Well, today on Warhammer Math, we're talking about the Emperor's blingiest flying warriors, the Sanguinary Guard.